Shalom. Baruch haba. Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sarid for our weekly Torah teaching on the coming of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. My name is Anthony, and I greet you in the great and awesome name of Yahuwah Elohim. To the Kodashim out there, thank you so much for your comments, for your support. If you're joining us here for the first time, Baruch haba, welcome. You can find the orientation videos for this edut on the YouTube channel. It will answer a lot of your questions that you might have. Now that we're assembled, let's go ahead and jump right into the lesson for today. As we look at the word of Yahuwah and what it means for us here in our time. Devarim 32, we'll be looking at verse 34 for the Song of Moshe this week, followed by the witness over in Yochanan. Chapter 19, we'll be looking at verse 7. Is this not laid up in store with me? The Yuta answered him, we have a Torah, and according to our Torah, he ought to die. As we pick up from last week, Pilatus and the religious leaders are working together to slay an innocent man. They brought the Nazir Yahushua to Pilatus to be put to death, saying to Pilatus, before it was not lawful for us to put anyone to death. Pilatus initially declined because of apparent ethics violations by the Yuta. They couldn't produce evidence. That's what that boiled down to. So when Pilatus wanted to appease them, he violated ethics of his own by offering to use one of the customs made up by the Yuta during those times to release someone at the Pesach in an exchange program to substitute the life of one man for another, in order to put someone to death for a crime, whether he committed the crime or not. Apparently, the idea being, as long as someone paid for the crime, it does not matter who dies. According to the Song of Moshe, this was a bribe they were chasing in order to slay an innocent man. Pilatus initiated it by bringing it to the religious leaders first. So when they brought Yahushua out, they could then influence the crowd, as we saw last week. This was the art of the bribe. When they saw him, the chief leaders incited them to unite in order to further their religious agenda, and thereby have Yahushua delivered to death by traditions, and not put to death based on any crime committed. And by doing this, everyone following that crime or that crowd would be convicted in the judgment of Yahuwah for slaying an innocent man, because they were all in on it. And that is why it is written in the covenant of Yahuwah concerning his people, found in Shemot chapter 23, verse 2, it reads, you shall not follow a crowd to do evil, nor shall you testify in a dispute, so as to turn aside after many to pervert justice. This is found in the covenant of Yahuwah, Exodus chapter 23, verse 2. But as it was during the time of Yahushua, so it is in our time. The people are into traditions and customs. Should be aware of that. And not covenants. So the religious leaders in the story are putting on a clinic of how to deceive a crowd of people. So here we are in the song this week to continue the bribe to put Yahushua to death. And Yahuwah says, is this not laid up in store with me? In store, according to the definition, meaning coming in the future and about to happen. Seen in what the Yuta said, Utah answered him, we have a Torah, and according to our Torah, he ought to die. This is something that has to happen to the Nazir. It is indeed laid up in store for Yahuwah to do it. He said in this song written by Moshe, the sword was going to do it. But so that scripture may be fulfilled, the Torah is what is laid up with Yahuwah. He inspired it and is watching over every stroke of the pen written by Moshe in order to bring it to pass, according to what is written. And so the Utah answered him, we have a Torah, and according to our Torah, he ought to die. By saying this, they bring the word of Yahuwah into the action. And so his word is the driving force behind their statements. Although they don't know who he is, nor understand what his book is saying. Their statement here for the written account just confirms the question from the line above. Yahuwah is seen as me in the line of Devarim, and the Torah is bearing witness to Yahushua, seen as he down in Yochanan, the one who ought to die. All of this is laid up in store with Yahuwah. And now we're going to look at this footnote. You'll find it in your study Bibles, if you have one. NU text reads the law. Okay? This is the word they have replaced the Torah with in order to lead people astray. The statement made by Yahuwah is also a statement of possession. It's a statement of possession made by Yahuwah. And by the Utah boldly making the statement to Pilatus down in Yochanan, they take possession for themselves and do not recognize Yahuwah. The Texas Receptus records, we have a Torah and our Torah. They neither inspired the Torah nor wrote it, so it was not theirs. Yahuwah himself is also addressing their false presumptions. This is arrogant. They have other ideas that are obviously seen by Yahuwah, who is judging their heart as evidenced by his line above. He says it in the form of a question. The prophetic teachings belong to Yahuwah and not to them. He must be recognized. What the NU have not understood is witness tampering. They change the witness by trying to make it sound more appeasing to earthly appetites. We have a law, and according to the law, he ought to die, is what they wanted to say. This is arrogant as well. They have other ideas. The ways of Yahuwah are not like our ways. By replacing our Torah with the law, tampers with the witness, so that the written account does not speak to possession. Okay? They're switching out ours for the word the. So the witness does not account to speak to possession, who the book belongs to. They had the book, this is true, but it was not theirs. For one thing, they never clarified anything specific to validate their claims at all to this point in the witness. And most importantly, the Torah is a supernatural book. It does not cater to earthly appetites. The Torah are specific writings found in the 5 books of Moshe, the prophetic teachings, not the 5 books themselves. There are specific things written. Yahuwah uses his word to set himself apart from anything else to believe in for salvation because of the prophecies written in those specific teachings. He brings them to pass in his own time so that when they do come to pass, the world might believe in who he is through what was written and inspired by him, known only by his name in the Hebrew. This is done to encourage people to worship him so that you have a good foundation in order to receive salvation. He loves us all and wants to save all people according to righteousness. And the prophecies should be the single motivation for anyone regarding worship, who you're going to worship. The book doesn't have any prophecies, it's no good to put your spiritual trust and salvation in it. Prophecy is the one thing that separates the Torah from any other doctrine out there. No other books have prophecies like the Torah. All of the Nebaim and the other writings bear witness to what is written in those prophetic teachings. There are no prophecies in any other books out there, Islam. No prophecies in the Quran, period. Now, before we move on, I want to look at that word for law there, or Torah. G3551 is nomos, and it means anything established, anything received by usage, custom, command. Then it gets spiritual in the definitions. It says, of any law whatsoever or rule producing a state approved by Yahuwah. A precept or injunction as a rule of action prescribed by reason. Then it goes on to identify the law of Moshe and other glaring terminology that describes the Torah definition in the Hebrew, the body of prophetic teachings given by Yahuwah for the seed of Yisrael, with instructions for the age of Mashiach. Those writings are what Yahuwah is overseeing in order to bring to pass the prophecies therein. And of course, they replace the name of Yahuwah in the definitions with the demon of today. The Torah, by definitions, also means to point out and show. So when the Torah is lined up properly, it points out and shows exactly who the scripture is talking about, what they are doing, why they are doing it, where it was going down, and when it all takes place. That is what the Torah does. It was all written for the coming age of Mashiach. It was a body of prophetic teaching. They never understood it. Sealed up among my treasures. Because he made himself the Ben of Yahuwah. So Vayikra chapter 24, verse 16 comes to mind here. You don't have to turn there, I'm just going to read it. Chapter 24, verse 16 reads, and whoever blasphemes the name of Yahuwah shall surely be put to death. All the assembly shall certainly stone him, the stranger as well as him who is born in the land. When he blasphemes the name of Yahuwah, he shall be put to death. So there it is. And it slipped out. They could have said this was the crime from the beginning. He made himself the Ben of Yahuwah. They got too excited in the bribe to lead the crowd astray. Evildoer sounded like more of a case. for the penalty they were asking for to the unsuspecting people. And this now comes to Pilatus. First time he heard this. True enough, we were all created in his image, but because of all the miracles, the religious leaders understood that claim differently. They saw it as a threat to their spiritual death grip on their unsuspecting followers. Something very special was happening. Pilatus caught wind of it. It was something sealed up in the treasuries of Yahuwah. Sealed up among my treasures. The word for sealed, H2856, khatam, means to seal up, to affix a seal, to fasten up by sealing. This is something that is unknown to mankind, something new. Indeed unknown to the world, unheard of before a certain point in history, sealed up in the treasuries of Yahuwah, seen in what they finally came clean about. Yochanan records it was because he made himself the Ben of Yahuwah. This was something that was unheard of before by Pilatus, who represents world affairs, himself a political leader presiding over the spiritual affairs of Israel. It was something that was sealed up by Yahuwah and was now being put on display to the whole world. Now we saw when this was done in the written account. It's found in Devarim chapter 28:12 as it lined up with Yochanan chapter 9 verse 39 and 40. This seal was seen in video number 12 given by Sari. You can find it on the YouTube page. It's called Aftermath, the courtroom fallout. When Yahuwah revealed something in the teaching at that time that was sealed up and unknown to the world. It was the Ben of Yahuwah. It is what Yahuwah wanted all the world to know in the written account. And it is this: there was no Son of Man, and there was no Son of God in this written account concerning the good news of the flesh, the Basura. That's just some blasphemy made up to support demonic doctrine, to teach the people so that they can all be deceived by satanic teachers. Yahuwah poured out his good at Osiro, the Aleph Tah treasure at that time. A seal was let loose. Then he let loose the seal, and it's this: Yahushua is the Ben of Yahuwah. In all of those places where it says Son of Man or Son of God, it was the Ben of Yahuwah before they changed it. So they switched up the doctrine. So let all the assembly recognize that. You can find it again, video 12, Aftermath, the courtroom fallout. Revisit that teaching when you get a chance concerning that treasure of Yahuwah to see the lines on that survey. The fact that it shows up here again is a warning and should not be taken lightly. Devarim chapter 32, verse 35 will line up with Yochanan chapter 19. We'll be looking at verse 8 through 10. Vengeance is mine and recompense. Therefore, when Pilatus heard that saying, he was the more afraid. Vengeance is mine and recompense. This is cause for concern. The great name of Yahuwah was made reference to, and Pilatus heard that said. It was a name that brought the fear of vengeance. So something comes over Pilatus. Vengeance, that word there, nakam, means to avenge, to take vengeance, to entertain revengeful feelings. So something comes over him. Apparently what the Utah worshipped and who Yahushua claimed to be the Ben of were two different beings. And thus the word recompense comes into play over in Deparim because of the fear. The word for recompense, H8005, is shilem, and it means recompense and requital. To requite means to make appropriate return for a favor, service, or wrongdoing. Fear made Pilatus reconsider this whole thing. This is why he was afraid something was wrong, and it had to do with what they said. The verb there for shalom means to make peace with, to live in peace. So he begins to have a change of heart. The word for afraid there, G5399 for Baal, means struck with fear and seized with alarm. To put to flight by terrifying. So he's paying attention now. Their foot shall slip in due time, and went again into the praetorian. Their foot, regal is the foot according to the pace. It's in the definition. It is from a root meaning to go on foot and spy out. To go about as an explorer. So this foot is going somewhere because of the news he just received, seen over in Yochanan as when he again went into the praetorian. G4232 is the judgment hall. Well, in due time. The word for slip means to shake, to totter, to slip and be moved, be overthrown, and greatly shaken. This is characterizing the fear from the plumb line above. He was greatly shaken and headed to the judgment hall. The word for time there, H6256, is the time of an event of a future time. How about that? The judgment hall, seen here as the praetorian, headquarters of the Roman camp and tent of the commander-in-chief. This word is of Latin origin, meaning they will be coming to answer at a future time to another commander-in-chief by the name of Yahuwah for the witness tampering done by them historically. And their foot slipped here. This is the first slip, right into the judgment hall, shaking and everything. Obviously worried about something, as they should be. Because as I mentioned, this is the first slip. The final slip is the final judgment. That is due to come. It will be on the Latin kingdom. Going there again. For the day of their calamity is at hand. There it is, worried to death. And said to Yahushua, where are you from? But Yahushua gave him no answer. So Pilatus is coming to get answer, and this time he is afraid, and calamity is set in. Only Yahushua gave him no answers. The day of their calamity is at hand, and what do you know? He goes into the judgment hall, and lo and behold, he's standing right before Yahushua in the judgment hall of all places, the praetorian. This is a picture of what happens in the place where Yahuwah dwells, a place where accountability comes into question. The Gentiles will have to answer for some things, particularly the Latin kingdom. That's the Pope and his people. The Latin rite of Christianity and any spin-offs from that. And this could not be more clear. See it right here on the screen. It's judgment time. It is the day of their calamity. The judgment of the calamity that was initiated right here at the first coming of the Nazir. Calamity started in these verses. It's what Moshe is singing about right now. The last one will be more calamitous than this, because the results of this whole account will be eventually gathered by them some years later and given to bear a false witness that will continue to get worse over time by the offspring of the Latin kingdom, those who believe in it for salvation. They will have to face Yahushua, where they will be judged in another judgment hall, like the Praetorian, in that it is a high place of authority, where they will be standing in the presence of Yahushua, just like it is here. This time, to answer his questions. And he will judge the ruthless and vicious way they have manipulated and falsely portrayed him to all of the world. It will be the day of their calamity. Calamity is an event causing great and often sudden change or distress, a disaster. The definition here in the Hebrew gets deeper because of the way it's used. It identifies the players. The one I just gave was a dictionary definition. Here, H343 is Id, and it means distress and burden. Calamity, as it's used of the burden of the righteous. This is Yahushua. Calamity in the definition is also used as the calamity of a nation. This is the Latin people, the nationality of Pilatus. It's also used in the definition as the disaster of the wicked. This is all the people motivated by evil, like Pilatus himself and the bribe that he influenced on this account. Feeling it might have been wrong now because of what the Utah said, now he comes back here for some more spiritual questions. However, by this time it's too late. He's already gone out to carry the bribe to the people. A little late to turn back at this point. Calamity is at hand. People outside calling for blood. Got him excited about the wrong thing. The root word of calamity is from H181. It's used in the sense of bending down. It is from an unused root meaning to rake together. To rake together a firebrand. This is burning wood, coals if you will, raked together. So bending down and burning coals sounds like judgment to me. A firebrand, according to the dictionary, is a person who is passionate about a particular cause, typically inciting change and taking radical action. This calamity is now at hand. H7138, Karab means near. In other words, it's going down right now. It was at hand. It's near a place, time, and personal relationship. Means to come near, to approach, and be near. It is at hand. The curiosity, out of fear, brought him near to ask about this place and time as it relates to Yahushua. And this is seen in what Pilatus says to him. Where are you from? This is personal and speaking of multiple things. The word for from, G4159, is potent. It is used of place, origin, and of cause, much like the word near. All three is implied in the question. We're going to look at the whole of what Pilatus said when he made that statement using the definitions for 41 G4159. Place, origin, and cause. They said he was the Ben of Yahuwah. When he came back and said, "Where are you from?" he meant from where as a place. From what condition? In other words, explain that place. At the same time, the word implied origin or source. From what author or giver is in the definition. Explain that. When he said, "Where are you from?" it also implied cause. How is that? How can that be? Explain that. All three of the definitions applied when he asked Yahushua, "Where are you from?" He's talking about all of that. Yahushua gave him no answer. All of this is calamity. It was at hand. Besides, he already told him everything he needed to know, and he didn't go check it out. Pilatus never followed through with the investigation into what Yahushua said the first time. Instead, Pilatus went out there and incited a riot. Had he followed through with the investigation, that would have been something he could understand. But that wasn't the case. Now he comes wanting to know something personal about the Nazir that he and no one on this earth will ever understand in the flesh. And that is where he is from. He already told him his kingdom is not of this world. Words cannot describe where Yahushua is from. Yahushua did not even dignify that with an answer. Probably looked at him funny as well. If he didn't understand the earthly things he was already given, trying to explain where Yahushua was from was not going to be easy for him to understand. It just caused more calamity. The things to come hasten upon them. Pilatus said to him, "Are you not speaking to me? Do you not know that I have power to stake you and power to release you?" And the things to come hasten upon them. Panic is setting in. Yahushua is not saying anything, and the people want to carry on with the bribe they were incited to do by Pilatus. He needs answers for his own well-being, and he needs them quick. So he begins to use scare tactics. This is pride setting in. He begins to talk about his power. These are things hastening upon them. Their power is increasing. But in an underlying way, so is the power of the Nazir. And the things to come. H6264. Atid means prepared and impending, stored up as treasure. The verb means to make ready. To make ready. So this is something they will make. It is prepared. This is the stake down below in Yochanan. Pilatus has this power. Pilatus said to him, "Are you not speaking to me? Do you not know that I have power to stake you?" It hastens upon them. H2362, hasten, that word there is kush, and it means to make haste and act quickly, to come quickly, to enjoy and be excited. This is seen when he said, "and the power to release you." This is excitement here. One quick note, this word for release has a root that is tied to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. When you read the chapter, this thing that is to be released is likened to Yahushua and will come out of the Latin kingdom. This is what is hastening upon us now, Sarid. Something prepared will be released by a political figure presiding over spiritual affairs. All of these verses in the song carry underlying prophetic meanings that are given to help you for the time that is coming, so that you do not be deceived. Cannot cover it all, but the line survey is accurate and there is still more to glean. Amen. Deception is deceptive. But imagine this. Something evil setting up and releasing something made to appear bad and evil in every way, and then releasing it upon the people. And then the same evil releases something more powerful to overcome the first evil, making evil a hero in the likeness of Yahushua. This will become an evil more deadly than the first when they release it. Imagine that. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpat. Lehitraot. See you later.